On the agenda is a pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Tom Hauser's having some health issues. Our thoughts and prayers goes out to him for a speedy recovery, which I think that's going to happen. So everybody keeps Tom in their thoughts and prayers. So next on the agenda is Pam.
Yep, the only thing I have is payroll that was distributed yesterday to all county employees for $146,969.16.
Christian Skirring.
Yep, so motioned.
Okay, got a motion, and I'll second that. Greg,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. So approved 2-0. Anything else, Pam?
Nope, that's all I got.
Okay. Alvin, you just in time.
They've got copies of what you just sent.
Okay, I got copies of that, good. Which is first on the agenda?
The affidavit.
The affidavit, okay. The affidavit is for TIF District Number 3, and it's for continuing mitigation work on the Riverview Industrial Park there. So $10,113 comes out of the TIF bond, 21.
I don't have any questions. I'm ready to motion if you are.
Okay, motion made and second. I'll second that. Vote. Any discussion? Vote.
Aye.
Okay. And also vote aye. So,
Yep.
thanks, Alvin.
All right, ready resolution, Aaron's under the weather this morning, so she's not here for this part, but the, the resolution's presented to you here, but, which is exactly as Chris has written it, except to change the date that it's due. They changed the date 2 weeks ago to the September 30th, which is more realistic than August 31st was. But, and it's in the signature page, so.
That's the only change on it. was just
That's the
date,
only
right?
change, the date was on it, yes. Mm-hmm.
And we did approve that, but we need to reapprove it with the new date.
No, it's never been the document itself has never been approved. It was
Okay.
approved to go ahead with the
Yeah, go ahead
process.
with it, yeah.
Right, yes, but until we got the
We
resolution
approved
done, so.
the process that SWIDAC, did I say that right? I always get that messed up.
Yes, right.
They
Mhm.
they had a formal request of who to put on it and all that kind of stuff. That's all we
Correct,
approved.
yeah, all that, everything's been done except the state needs to have this resolution from the governing body, which is the commissioner, so that's,
You need
So
us
that-
to re-vote on,
you need, yeah, you need to
Okay.
approve this,
Okay.
you need to approve this resolution
Okay.
as it is,
Okay.
you know, written, so.
Yep.
okay,
I motion to approve it.
okay, and I'll second that motion.
Only comment I got is I've seen some of the spreadsheets that you and Aaron are putting together, and they're massive. Thank you for all that work. I know there's a lot of effort that goes into putting those things together, so.
The application, or all the information was due to the consultant last night, and so we made it. I think I've had some thoughts, we're gonna add some things to it, but as soon as that's it, and that gives them, when we got a month and 6 weeks to get it all ironed out then, so it's going through. It was, it's quite an exercise, but.
We can give it a little more time now.
Yeah, and once it gets further along where we know exactly what's going in, we'll catch you up on what all the projects were and everything else. Right now, it's still sky and pie in the sky things, but we'll see what that is.
Good
All right.
news.
So vote, aye.
Okay, I'll vote aye also, so carried 2-0. So.
Thanks, Alvin.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, awarding of the cycle political.
I wouldn't have got it right either.
That's not how it's pronounced, that was different. So, reassessment. Mindy,
Good.
Yeah, I guess everybody approved it, Chris? looked
Yeah,
over it?
he reviewed it. I forwarded that email
Yeah.
from Chris. that
Yeah.
he
I got it.
Had read it, reviewed it, everything looked in line. I went through with the bid specs to make sure everything was checked off. Everything looks good.
If we're happy, then we're happy, so.
Okay, good deal. And that was a 3-year?
Four.
4
year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 4-year, quarter of the county every year. Starts in June to May.
Okay,
I'll motion to approve.
okay, and I'll second that. Any other discussion? Call for vote. Greg?
Aye?
And I also vote aye. Carried 2-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, miscellaneous, public comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
First to raise your hand, go ahead.
Do you mind if I take my mask off while we talk?
Yeah, you can take it off.
I've been
We're
vaccinated.
far enough away, I think.
Yeah, I've been vaccinated too. Celia Farrand, work for the news, not here on behalf of the news. I'm here on behalf of the money for the ARP for the sober living house. I wasn't able to be here last month, but I gave Charlie Bowmaster, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly, he wanted a wish list, which I provided him. So basically, and I brought a few copies too, basically this has the basics, the very basics of what it would take us to begin a sober living house in this town. Goals, startup expenses, future goals, and a timeline. So I don't know where we are with that commission or committee.
It basically meets every Thursday after the council meeting, so is it 6:30, is that what we said?
Yep.
Is it 6:30 though? Is that what we said on that one?
6:15 is the
6:15.
scheduled time, is whenever the council meeting ends.
Is it open to the public?
Absolutely,
Okay.
Maybe
absolutely.
next
Wonderful.
week,
I
right?
highly recommend that you come to that.
Yes, yes. And again, local government is not my thing.
No, it's all right.
So I'll try to keep up with that. Anyway, I do have a few copies of my wish list that I gave to him. I'll let you guys have these, and that's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have one? I'm on that group, so I'll make sure they get it.
leave
I'll
you
scan
that
it
sheet
in.
if you're-
Yeah, thanks.
Celia, I'll add you to the meeting notice list.
Thank you so
And
much.
that's circulation F, right?
It is.
Okay. Jim?
Anybody else? I'll go last.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments?
My name is Becky Thorne, and I have been attending the commissioners' council meetings and all the meetings I can. The last few meetings I've attended seem to have gotten way out of control, and there's no sense in it. We're not children, and we're not on the Jerry Springer show. I appreciate y'all allowing me to speak, and everyone has the opportunity to speak in their own opinions, but it seems to be getting personal in these meetings, and I believe citizens should have the opportunity to ask questions, and you as commissioners should be able to answer these questions to the best of your ability. I've observed a lot of shouting, finger pointing, accusing, hateful remarks, people out of their chairs, and there's no sense in it. We're not children. And it's embarrassing. It is really embarrassing to me, because if someone moves to this county and decides to come to these meetings, or if, say, a person wants to start a small business or find out more about the county, how do you think they would feel? Now, I don't know what it's going to take to stop a lot of this nonsense. And it is streamed also, so people in the county and everywhere are seeing this. And it's shameful. I know everybody has a temper. I've got one myself, and I don't like to use it, and I don't want to use it in public places. It just shows a lack of common sense, and I encourage you as commissioners to try and get a hold of these meetings. I would hate to think about individuals new, like I said, to the county coming in here and seeing this. It's not a good thing. That's not Perry County. It shouldn't be. And nothing gets accomplished doing this. We're humans, and we're adults, and we need to, you can discuss stuff civilly. And if you can't, then you don't need to be here. And so I'm asking you to try to get a better control of the meetings, especially when there's large crowds. And I know people say things and do things that they shouldn't, and I'm as guilty as the next one. But I just wanted to make that statement, and I hope y'all can do something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That made a lot, you made a lot of sense there. Thank you. And could you share that with the council also? at
Yes,
their
I'm
meeting?
going to, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Julie Hess, mother of Shelby 16, Avery 9, and Grady 6, who are students at Tell City Schools. This is my first time attending the commissioners' meeting. I am here today as a concerned citizen and mother. Based on my communication with Dr. Markram, he requested to end the conversation with me and pointed me to you since you appointed him. He said if I wanted a new health department official to see you, and I most certainly do. When I reached out to him regarding my concern for the school's opening with no mask mandate, no social distancing at lunch, no pods at lunch or recess, his first response was that the school would shut down if absences became too high. When I pushed him further on the issue, he stated that I was just complaining and had submitted no alternative plan, and therefore I was doing nothing for no one. When I pushed him about my concern about my unvaccinated children at the elementary school, he quoted the Mayo Clinic and said young children rarely get severe COVID, so that should cover those who have no access to the vaccine. This shows he was willing to gamble with young children's health in our community, my children. I had to bypass him and go to the Indiana State Department of Health. They contacted the local health department office on Tuesday, which I think resulted in some changes. There is a county guidance by color on the government website for Indiana. I encourage all of our leaders to read it. The Indiana State Department of Health follows CDC guidance for universal masking in schools. The key word here is universal. The key word is not recommend. We need a local health official who doesn't engage in fight or flight when hard questions are asked. We need a local health official who can engage in professional communication. We need a local health official who is willing to follow the health guidance and keep our community safe. Dr. Markram stated that I should have a plan, but it's not his job to have a plan. He stated his job is to give advice to organizations when asked. A county commissioner here explained to me that the local health department initiates. I am tired of being ran in circles. Obviously, your leaders need oversight and don't understand the processes at work here. I get paid $0 to provide this oversight, and it pulls me away from my family and my work. It is exhausting. I understand that our commissioners have the power to mandate masks for our county for indoor public places, but yet they will not do it. Perry County has been within the parameters for indoor masking for weeks now, but no one acted. If you, the commissioners, would have been willing to mandate masks indoors in public places in the past, you could have prevented schools from opening the way they did while we were in the orange and while we were and are currently in the red. Schools opened with no mask mandate, no pods, and no distancing at lunch. It looked very much like a herd immunity approach for our school children, my school children. There should be nothing political about public health. I understand that you cannot enforce masks once they are mandated, but I believe it is the morally correct thing to do for our community at this time. You have the power to keep our community safer, to help slow the spread, and to help local hospitals from being overrun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments on?
I got comments, but he's still got to go, so.
Well, I was looking for your comments on her.
Oh, I mean, I got one basically just for the schools and kind of around Senate Bill 5, if that's okay. Can you hear me okay back there, Jim? You can.
I'll hear you. You're
But can you hear me over the speakers though at all?
You can pull your mask down a
You're
little
muffled.
bit so we can, yeah, okay.
I'm aware of Senate Bill 5, by the way.
Yeah, so am I. Can I?
You wanting that? The whole thing?
Please. This is the microphone. All right, so now you can hear me over the speakers. There we go. Okay, so Senate 5 supposedly gave the Board of Health, commissioners, and school local control legally. The way that it works is the Board of Health mandates, then the commissioners have the power to veto or approve that mandate. Much like a Senate bill is passed, then the president has the power to sign it or veto it. With the Board of Health only doing recommendation, there is nothing to veto or approve by the commissioners. That's why it's not on the agenda. Plus, the recommendation from the Health Board is not more stringent than the CDC or Indiana State Board of Health, so even if we could veto it, it wouldn't mean much because theirs comes on top of it. Which is where the bigger issue begins. Though the state gave us local control legally, they at the same time tied our hands, especially the schools, via insurance and lawsuits. For example, the schools could legally say that since it's a recommendation, they are not going to enforce masks in schools. They could legally do that. But then the Indiana Board of Health and state government issued a statement saying if the schools don't follow CDC guidance, then their insurance could be void. So on one hand, the state says you have local control, go ahead, but in the other, they open the school up to lawsuits, which basically makes local control a mirage. Another perfect example is let's take the whole thing and turn it on its ear. This time the local Board of Health makes a mask mandate, and hypothetically, the commissioners veto it. So no local mandate, no local recommendation exists at all. Guess what? The CDC and State Board of Health recommendations still exist, and the school is back in the same spot they were before. So tell me how, if no matter what we do or say locally changes the final outcome, how can that be local control? This decision has been made for us already, and they have just pushed the blame down the road as far as they can. Here's the one thing we can do locally. We can support the school boards. They have been placed in an impossible position. It has been made to look like they have a choice, but in reality their hands are tied. And members of the Health Department, local board of health, and the commissioners should be the most supportive of all. If we can't stop the proverbial can from being kicked down the road, then we shouldn't cast judgment either. Just because as a commissioner I lack the power right now to affect this situation, that doesn't give me the right to point blame at someone else. So with that in mind, I would like to personally state that I know my school board, superintendent, staff, and teachers. They have the safety, health, and well-being of our children, my daughter included, as their first priority. So I'm also sure the same can be said for the other two schools. So regardless of what they do and what their position is on this subject, please support them and let them know you understand that they're in a catch-22. That's a damn.
Can I speak one more time? So are you telling me the county commissioners have no ability to have a motion and vote for masking in our county to mandate it? You have no power to do that whatsoever?
That's what I've been told.
Okay, I will research that.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with your statements, Greg, not at all.
Anybody else before we again come up? Okay, Jim.
It's interesting. The topic this morning has to do with, well, let me see if I can get this thing.
I broke it for you, James.
No, that's okay.
Just the way,
There you go.
Take this thing off. I'm half asleep. My alarm clock was set wrong. So anyway, what I want to talk to you about this morning is I gave you copies of, in the meeting that I was at before the commissioners meeting, we had discussions over, and as Becky said, not just this meeting, but also some of our other meetings, there's been a lot of inflammatory statements. There's been some, I'm going to say half-truths, but misstatements made, and I'm very concerned about that because one of the problems that I deal with is, see, I don't go on the internet because I believe half this they call it social, I call it non-social stuff that goes on the internet. So I hear so much later on, and so anyway, basically, what I'm concerned about, I came to here this morning, was we had discussions over the fact of problems with obviously no shelter. But my concern, which has been actually been going on for a long time, Kim is now the sanitarian, but before that I had the problems with Jeremy concerning whenever we had animal bites. In fact, I just talked to the office yesterday, and what I'm trying to do is get information on actually how many animal bites we've had over the last 2 years to see if it's increasing. But in lieu of that, they were discussing the shelter. And obviously on the outside of the shelter, we have, actually, in fact, I gave you copies there showing the outside kennel, and that's the dimensions of the outside kennel, and I came up with basically a real quick thought on cost of what it would take to actually put a roof on it, because that's the main problem on the outside kennel is there's no roof. And so basically I gave you one copy is the cost, and that's, like I said, that can vary according to where you get the materials, but that's a very close estimate, and it ends up being that we could get a roof on there for approximately $2,000. But there's a few things I haven't added on there, but around $2,000 would put that roof on, and that would make it a secure, complete secure facility. And what I'm concerned about is if the page I gave you, which came from the Animal Control Ordinance, it's actually page 16, it's under Article 3, and it's what I'm concerned about is reporting of animal bites. And if you'll see on paragraph 1, as it goes down, we're talking about when an animal, presently when an animal bites, a dog specifically, or not specifically, but mostly dogs, by state law, the health department has to be informed. That's the state law. And that's basically goes way back because of the rabies. It basically is a rabies control operation. But the argument that I've been having for many years is, and it's actually written into the ordinance. If you look further down on paragraph 1, it says during the quarantine period, the animal is to be securely confined and kept from contact from any other animal or non-custodian. Okay? Now, the paragraph above that, I'm going to jump back, it says confinement is to be in the discretion of the board based upon whether the animal is vaccinated and whether the owner has proper facilities to prevent the animal from escaping or coming in contact with other persons. The key word is the place of confinement is the discretion of the board. Well, the health department took on that responsibility, and that's put a lot of pressure, I think, on the sanitarian, because they've got their hands full right now with COVID. And now if we have a dog bite, then the animal control board then assumes that the health department is going to say where that animal has to be facilitated. And I think that's wrong. I think it's, if you read that, it specifically states that should be the animal control decides where that's going to be, and then the responsibility of being that proper place falls on their shoulders, which is the proper place. Because if right now, if the health, I see it, this is the way I see it, I wish Chris was here this morning. If a dog bites a person, and the health department that says, okay, we're going to let that animal stay in the home, then they put a liability onto the county, because now it's state, and if this was ever brought to court, then the attorney would immediately, for that person that was bit, would say, wait a minute, you didn't follow the procedure set enforced in your ordinance. Now, the Animal Control Board states that that's the health department's responsibility, which is not true. This is the responsibility of the confinement is the Animal Control Board. And I looked up the laws, and the only way that would change is if we had actually a large rabies situation where the state veterinarian would then take control, and the state veterinarian would then have the ability to state where it would be confined. Other than that, it's local, and it comes under that, and I would like immediately for the commissioners to inform or look at this and make a decision, because either you go by what it says here or you change the ordinance. One way or the other, because the county is now liable, and this could cause a major lawsuit just because of that wording and the way they operate. And I'm not trying to put blame on anyone. I'm just saying that this has been going on, and I've had discussions with this same thing, and I think we should do something. And that's the reason I gave you the second portion of it, which was when they discussed, hey, how are these officers going to be able to immediately get an animal confined properly? And if you get a roof over this outside kennel at a reasonable cost, we're talking about, probably another $300 by the time you add, as I've stated there. I didn't put some little delicate things in there like the guttering and soffits, which you probably wouldn't need, but fascia. But that's a small amount that would protect the county, and also would give the ability, if there was an animal brought forth by a law officer, they would have a place to put them, and it would be a secure place. Because right now it's not secure the way it's set up. Because a person let's just say a person that's daughter got bit, and they had a vendetta on that dog or that person, and they knew that dog was put into that confined. All they had to do is take some poison meat and throw it over the top of that kennel, right into that kennel, and it's going to poison the dog or other dogs or other animals in there. So one of the first things I think we should do is set up an actual location. It don't have to be in, it can be on outside, that's protected. That's why we need the roof. And so I'm just trying to solve a problem for our local officers, because they're running into this all the time. I think we had I didn't ask him specifically, but I think it was actually at the Schweitzer Festival that we had dog bite. And the problem is people keep putting off who's supposed to be responsible. But the problem with that is whenever you take this to a court of law, then you're opening yourself up for liability and big lawsuits. And we were just lucky, I felt, in the last 2 years or 3 or 5 years that we haven't had somebody that actually has sued the county over the improper impounding of the dogs, because it actually specifically states in there what you that dog or a cat or animal, how it has to be confined. It specifically states in there. So that's what I'm just asking for is let's get a roof over that outside kennel, so we don't have to facilitate the inside, because that's just going to cause more problems. Anybody got any questions?
No.
And I'm not trying to put the pressure on it in law enforcement, but everybody needs to get on the same page. And I've been hearing a big argument. I'm speaking again as public, not as the Humane Society, but at the Humane Society there was a big hullabaloo, and there was half-truths and finger pointing, or a lot worse than that. And a lot of it is because of misinformation. So, and I truly would like to stop some misinformation. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I feel I know some things that need to be done, but we can do it civilly. So,
Appreciate it.
okay.
There it is.
Are there any other comments? Got anything, Greg? Okay, I guess not. Next meeting?
Okay, just a reminder that the Perry County American Rescue Plan Advisory Committee meeting will be next Thursday following the county council meeting. It's scheduled for 6:15 p.m. That's August 26th. Then your next regularly scheduled meeting because of Labor Day holiday, would be Tuesday, September 7th at 6 p.m. Both here at the courthouse.
Okay, thank you.